and I realize right now it's Raw heavy, and because all 4 of them are from Raw. But that's because over on SmackDown, it feels like the Royal Rumble's kind of been an afterthought.
Sure.
I mean, they set up the Fatal 4-Way for Roman, but I mean, outside of Bobby Lashley declaring this week, I don't know if you've had a lot of people over on SmackDown declaring. So it's really been more of a running theme through the shows on Raw. So I think the Final 4 at the Rumble that makes the most sense, I would say Cody, because I guess my parameters for this were it has to seem in the Final 4, it makes sense.
Yep.
You can, see it happening in your head. And, even if, the 4th guy on this list has a long shot chance, like the crowd might get excited with the thought of him potentially doing it. I think of when, I can't remember who the 4th one was, but it was when we were on the track of Triple H versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. And the crowd was really rejecting Roman. And I know the final 3 that year were Roman, Triple H, and at the time, Dean Ambrose. And the crowd really got behind Dean. And so I just kind of copying off of that idea. So I went Cody, Punk, Drew, and my 4th one was Jay, where I think you can make all 4 of those make sense storyline wise. And I think especially with Jay, like if Jay ends up making it to the final 2, like I think the crowd starts to buzz a little bit about Jay with the thought of him being, back against Roman.
Guys, what do you think of this 4? Cody, Drew, Carmelo Hayes, Punk. Carmelo Hayes, maybe he gets an early draw and they just want to see what he can do. How can you sustain yourself? Because that's a start for the future. He's probably the first to be eliminated out of those 4. And I just think that tells a story of, hey, we're putting this kid in the spotlight. This is your future star for 2025. So, and people will remember that. So what about
kind of put him in that Gunther spot? Because Gunther last year, he was the Iron Man, started 1 or 2 or whatever, and lasted all the way to the Final 4.
And I think to your point, Gabe, I like that 4th spot being reserved for sort of that wild card to where maybe, like, I feel like Dolph usually would end up there where it's like, is this a year? Like, is Dolph going to do it? And then, of course, he never is. So that's why I had the same 3 of Cody, Drew, Punk. My 4th, I had like KO or Sammy to sort of get that tease. And the other one sort of way out there. What about Gable? Like, I know they sort of cooled him off recently, but he had such a strong year, almost as a reward of like, hey, you had a hell of a year. Go be the Final 4 in this.
Well, I think you could do kind of Gable in that same vein of Carmelo Hayes because you know the dude could be the Iron Man. You could throw him in there at 3 or 4, and he ends up in that Final 4, going the distance, doing crazy things, showing off his strength, eliminating some bigger superstars along the way. I think you could easily do that for Gable. Sammy could be exciting potentially.